Child. Anyway, so
Six and a half hours later.
Dinomorphia is a deck that relies on you cutting your own life points constantly to gain powerful effects and floodgates, as well as the ability to constantly and consistently cycle through all of your monsters in the graveyard. Think of it like making Horcruxes. You chip away at yourself more and more to gain all of this survivability and power, but if those pieces get broken, you are gonna fucking die. Let's go over the deck list. One Miscellaneousaurus for protection, 3 Dinomorphia Thurzia, 3 Dinomorphia Diplos, 1 Lord of the Heavenly Prison, 2 Upstart Goblin or Draw Engine of equivalent power, 2 Card of Demise, as we will be doing the majority of our special summoning on our opponent's turn, 3 Fossil Dig, that is a search card that is not a hard one to return, 2 copies of Pot of Duality, again we will be doing our special summoning on the opponent's turn, 2 copies of Called by the Grave for obvious reasons, 1 copy of Eradicator Epidemic Virus, 2 copies of Ferret Flame. This card is a ridiculously good board breaker. 2 copies of Fuck You. 1 emergency copy of Trap Trick, or another Upstart Goblin if you prefer. 3 copies of Domain. 2 copies of Alert. 2 copies of Brute. 3 copies of Frenzy. 2 copies of Solo the Supreme King. 1 copy of Fuck You 2 Electric Boogaloo. And just 1 copy each of Shell, Sonic, and Reversion. For our extra deck, we have 2 Kentragina, 3 copies of Stealth Bergia, 3 copies of our Floodgate Rexsturm, 1 copy of the Supreme King Zark, and 1 copy each of our Fusion, Pendulum, Synchro, and XYZ Dragons in order to summon Zark. And lastly, we have White Woman Jump Scare. The strategy behind Dinomorphia is fairly simple. Get your life points as low as you possibly can, and then summon in the Rexsturm. Since all of the Dinomorphia support cards, such as Dinomorphia Frenzy and Dinomorphia Domain, require you to cut your life points in half in order to activate their effects, this is fairly simple to achieve, along the lines of just setting up your board. In other words, your main 2 engine pieces are Dinomorphia Domain and Dinomorphia Frenzy. The rest of the deck should be structured around how to get those onto the field and the effects activated. Dinomorphia Thurzia allows you to search a Dinomorphia trap card from your deck, reveal it to your opponent, and place it on your field. Dinomorphia Diplos allows you to take a Dinomorphia trap card and send it directly to the graveyard from your deck. These 2 main deck monster cards are key into getting our engines onto the field, so most of the deck is revolved around searching them out of it. Namely cards like Fossil Dig, Pot of Duality, and Card of Demise, which can also help us search out our trap cards directly. Dinomorphia Alert allows us to reset our board should it be broken. It allows us to special summon 2 Dinomorphia monsters from our graveyard that are both level 4, or 1 level 6 or level 8 Dinomorphia monster from our graveyard. Dinomorphia Brute is a very simple trade. Target 1 Dinomorphia monster you control, destroy it, and then target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy that too. Any Dinomorphia monster you control that is destroyed by this card effect gets to activate its graveyard effect, since it was destroyed by that card effect and not tributed. Dinomorphia Shell sets up a 3000 defense token that your opponent must swing at if it is on the field. It is only activatable during your battle phase. Dinomorphia Sonic is the deck's spell and trap gate. You can target 1 Dinomorphia monster you control, destroy it, and then negate the spell or trap effect that activated. Dinomorphia Reversion has a very interesting effect that you can banish any counter trap from your graveyard, and its effect will become that card's effect. This is any counter trap in the game, including Solemn Judgment. It is not limited to just Dinomorphia counter traps. Dinomorphia Domain allows you to pay half your life points and fusion summon 1 Dinomorphia monster using cards from your hand, deck, or field. Dinomorphia Frenzy allows you to pay half your life points to special summon one Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extra deck using one material from your extra deck and one material from your deck. Your main goal is to get these trap cards onto the field, but if you can only get one, do your very best to put Dinomorphia Frenzy onto the field. Dinomorphia Kentragina has the effect that you can banish one Dinomorphia normal trap from your graveyard, and its effect will become that effect. If you special summon it using only Domain and then banish Domain, you will have to offer up Kentragina as a fusion piece for Rexsturm, seeing as Rexsturm's fusion requirement requires a Dinomorphia fusion monster. However, if you summon Kentragina using only Dinomorphia Frenzy and then banish Dinomorphia Frenzy, you can use Stealth Bergia and a monster from your main deck as the fusion requirements. Dinomorphia Rexsturm's effect is that if your opponent controls a monster and that monster has more attack points than you currently have life points, that monster cannot activate its effect. This effect does not work on monsters in the hand or in the graveyard. This also will not stop passive effects, so you won't be stopping any King of the Skull Servants or Grand Modus anytime soon with just Rexsturm's passive ability, but its next ability will definitely help. For half your life points, you can activate Rexsturm's ability, which allows you to raise or lower your opponent's monster's attack to match your life points. Combined with Rexsturm's passive effect, this actively negates any monster effect on the field that has not yet been activated. Emphasis on not yet been activated. You would do well to be cautious with Rexsturm's ability. Coming in at only 3,000 attack points, Rexsturm is easy to run over if your opponent has the materials to do so. Activating Rexsturm's ability too early could lead to your opponent linking off or otherwise using those monsters on the field to special summon something that can run over Rexsturm, and with your life points so low, you cannot afford to make mistakes. Unless it is an absolute emergency and there's a monster ability that must be stopped before it can be activated, you are better off saving Rexsturm's ability for the very beginning of the battle phase, when no more special summoning can be done. In a nutshell, and for dummies, that is the main strategy for Dinomorphia. Now, let's move on to the secondary strategy. Soul of the Supreme King requires you to pay half your life points, but allows you to special summon one Supreme King Zark from your extra deck, but its effects are negated. The trap card has a secondary effect, however. If this trap is in the graveyard and you have a Supreme King Zark on the field, you can banish both and special summon 4 monsters from your extra deck. 1 Pendulum Dragon, 1 Fusion Dragon, 1 XYZ Dragon, and 1 Synchro Dragon. These monsters come out onto the field in full force. Their effects are not negated. And besides 4 extra beat sticks, 2 of them have really great effects. If you don't have enough monster zones to hold all 4 dragons, you can still choose whichever dragons you do want to summon in whichever zones you do have available to you. The Pendulum Dragon is there for filler, and the XYZ Dragon has no materials with which to activate its effect, so it is another 2500 beat stick. But the Synchro Dragon, Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and the Fusion Dragon, Starving Venomy Fusion Dragon, both have great effects, Crystal Clearwing in particular with its 2 negates for a monster and spell effect on the field.
Wait a minute, did you just summon a bunch of monsters in one turn?
Yeah, so?
That's against the rules, isn't it?
Screw the rules, I have money.
Supreme King Zark is the secondary strategy for this deck. That about covers everything. I'm gonna leave a sample game, but since the video is already pretty long, I'll probably only leave 1 or 2.